What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. And today we have another trade to announce. Finally, Yaroslav Askarov has been traded from the Nashville Predators over to the San Jose Sharks. This comes about a week, maybe, after he had asked for a trade from the Nashville Predators, as he told his agent and the Preds that he did not want to report to training camp. And did not want to be going to the AHL if he did not make the Predators. So he had asked for a trade and for a better opportunity. And now it looks like the trade has come to fruition. So Askarov heads to the Sharks along with Nolan Burke and a 2025 third round pick. In exchange, the Sharks send David Edstrom, first round pick, 30th overall. To the Nashville Predators, as well as goaltender Magnus Chrona and a 2025 first round draft pick, which is top 10 protected. However, it is top 10 protected if Vegas is in the top 10, though. So Vegas is basically top 10 protected in the sense where if Vegas and San Jose both have their picks in the top 10, Sharks can choose to send either theirs or Vegas. So there's no like condition on the pick. Like they're gonna get a first round pick regardless of whether it's top 10 or not. It's just the Sharks can choose which one they want to keep out of San Jose or Vegas at that point. Now, what's interesting about this trade? Well, the first thing we notice is obviously there's a goalie going back the other way in Magnus Chrona. Chrona's 23 years old. He played nine career games in the NHL last year, 859 save percentage. Not the best numbers last year on a Sharks team. Kind of, separated his time between the AHL, the NHL, and the ECHL last year. And again, numbers are not fantastic. 1 win, 6 losses, 1 overtime loss, 859 and an 894 in the AHL. So just not the greatest numbers. And then also Nolan Burke, who's an undrafted forward, a centerman, 21 years old, who played in the ECHL last year for the Atlanta Gladiators. He also heads back the other way. But the main piece in this deal is obviously Yaroslav Askarov. Now, Askarov was drafted, in the first round, 11th overall by the Nashville Predators. He was highly touted, highly regarded as probably the best goaltender to come out of, junior. He was compared to guys like Andrei Vasilevsky and Igor Shesterkin. He was the big name, and when the Preds drafted him at 11 overall, they were expected that they were going to have him and UC Saros be the goalie of the future. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, and he's ended up in San Jose. But the reason being is there's just been a logjam for the Predators. I mean, they signed UC Saros to an 8-year extension. And when they signed UC Saros to an 8-year extension, they essentially, kind of put themselves in a really tough position with Askarov. This is a guy who has been successful at every single level that he's played at, whether it was in the KHL, the MHL, the VHL. He was solid everywhere, and he was really good in junior, and he was one of the best goaltenders, one of the best young goaltenders to come up. So, seeing the fact that they went to go, bring back Saros an 8-year deal, I think it rubbed Askarov the wrong way, and that's why he asked for a trade. But if you look at his numbers, he's been fantastic, right? 886 in the one game he played for the Predators in 22-23, played 48 games in the AHL with the Milwaukee Admirals in 22-23, 26 wins, 16 losses, 5 overtime losses, 911 save percentage, incredible, 3 shutouts. And then last year, in 44 games, he had 6 shutouts. He had 30 wins, 13 losses, 1 overtime loss, and a 911 save percentage. This is a guy that has come into the AHL, as a young 20-year-old goaltender, 21, 22-year-old goaltender, and just absolutely been spectacular. He's been really good. He's been solid. And he's played some good hockey. And then, this year in 22-23, he actually, in 23-24, he played 2 games in the NHL. He had 1 win during that time, 943 save percentage during that time, 2 goals against. So this is a guy who I think is ready for the next step. He's done 2 years in the AHL where he's played consistent amount of minutes and has been the number 1 goaltender. He's looked good. Now it's an opportunity for him to go into, a Sharks organization that has struggled, but, has also put themselves in a position to where, they're not necessarily challenging for a playoff spot, and they get themselves their goaltender of the future. What's interesting about this deal as well is the fact that there's some interesting pieces to this. So obviously for For Nashville, they acquired David Edstrom, who's a former first round pick and a projectable center prospect. A late first is always cool, and Chrona's a 6'6" goaltender, so we'll probably win like 3 dozen. That's just a joke that they put in. But like again, like the Preds and the Sharks do well in this trade, and I think it ends up being a really interesting situation for both teams. Now, what's interesting about San Jose is they actually have 2 goaltenders on their contract. Vitek Vanacek, who makes 3.4 million, and Mackenzie Blackwood, who makes 2.35. Now, Vanacek, rumor has it, does have an injury. There's no guarantees that he'll play this season or if he'll play the beginning of the season. I think for the Sharks, regardless of whether Vanacek plays or not, I think their goaltending tandem will be Askarov and Blackwood. And I think that that's a really decent goaltending tandem to have, considering where both teams are, where the team is at, right? Like you look at the Sharks, they have Will Smith, they have Macklin Celebrini, who are going to play on this year. They have guys that are, coming up and stuff like that. Henry Thrun on defense, who I think is a really good player. They obviously drafted Sam Dickinson as well with the 11th overall pick. Igor Chernyshov is another one that they drafted. Quentin Musty, who's another one. Casper Haltonen. So they have a lot of guys that they brought in this year that I think are going to play big factors for the Sharks now and also in the future. And so I think they're putting themselves in a really good position. And one of the things that they needed was a goaltender, and they've got that in Yaroslav Askarov. Now, the other thing too that's interesting about this deal is the Preds don't do all that bad. I mean, David Edstrom is a 19-year-old center. He was drafted by Vegas, traded to San Jose in the Thomas Hertl trade, and now has been moved to Nashville. Nashville got themselves a decent young center who I think can play, in the SHL, but can also play for the Preds in the AHL if needed. They already have guys like Fedor Svechkov as well, who's an interesting one, and also Joaquin Kamel, who's a right winger as well. So Milwaukee have some options here in terms of where they're at, but not bad. And I mean, the top 10 protected is a top 10 protected pick. I don't think there's really much more to add to this. I think the Sharks, in terms of what they have, is very interesting for the future. I think this is a team that is really rebuilding, and Mike Grier is making some interesting decisions. He bolstered his team a little bit this year with the additions of Cody Ceci and Jake Wellman on defense. I think he's done a very good job, but I also think Barry Trotz did very well here. You look at, I think the price for Askarov's a bit steep. I think essentially trading 2 first-rounders is steep, but you also have to look at it from the Preds. They get 3 first-round picks now. They get David Edstrom, who's an interesting player. And if you look at their cup board, I mean, they have some assets to be able to go and potentially do something even bigger than they've already done. I mean, they drafted, they signed Steven Stamkos and obviously Jonathan Marchessault in free agency. You look at their prospects: David Edstrom, Matthew Wood, Tanner Mullendick, Reed Schaefer, Joakim Kemmel, Igor Surin, and 3 first-round picks in Tampa, Nashville, and Vegas. Like, those are very good assets in order for you to go and potentially get, a big price and a solid price at that point. So I think it's a good trade for both teams. I think both teams come out on top here. I think at the end of the day, Nashville, it gets rid of, I wouldn't say a problem, but it gets rid of a situation of where, they can focus on Saros. They've chosen Saros as their guy for the future, and they can now go ahead and potentially build their team in every other aspect. And for Askarov, I mean, he gets a fresh start. He gets an opportunity to be a starter, and he gets an opportunity to build his career in the NHL. And I think what better way to do it than on a rebuilding team like the San Jose Sharks, who don't have a lot of pressure on them right now, but they have a very good team, like future. And so I think for that reason, the Sharks are going to be very interesting to watch over the next couple of years. But I think they're better, and I think they're better than they were last year. And I think that Askarov might actually make them fascinating to watch. And they might also be that team that, maybe wins a couple of games and steals a couple of games. And Askarov has, a really good lights out season as well. And he proves to Nashville that he should have been the guy. So I think at the end of the day, this is a very, very interesting trade. And I think it's good. Like, it's a really good, exciting trade. It was one of those trades that, like, kind of like the McGroarty and Braden Yager trade yesterday, that happened between Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. I mean, it's stuff like that you don't really expect, right? Like, we knew the Sharks were in on Askarov. We knew Askarov wanted a trade, but at the end of the day, like, trades, you can hear rumors all you want, but trades only happen when, 2 teams are able to agree on something. And I thought the Sharks and the Preds agreed on this really quickly. I know Barry Trotz came out and said that one of the reasons that they traded Askarov was because of his on ice antics or something, which I think is just ridiculous. I think it's really fun to have goaltenders that are a little bit more, personable and have a nice personality. I think he's done a great job at doing that. But, at the end of the day, it's a good trade. And for the Preds, I mean, they get themselves a goalie in Chrona who doesn't really have much potential, but at 23 years old, he's still young. He can still develop. I mean, he's going to probably be an AHL, ECHL goaltender for them. So I don't think it's a huge deal for the Preds. And I mean, they get an insurance marker in case one of Scott Wedgwood or UC Saros goes down. And then the other thing too is they get two really, they get decent prospect in David Edstrom and a 2025 first round pick. So, I think it's good. I like this deal. I think that ultimately, I'm not going to give a winner, but I think if I had to, I think the Sharks get the better player. And I think Askarov is going to be a very solid goaltender for them. I like this move from Mike Grier. I think Mike Grier has done some fantastic work this offseason. And I think he's put the Sharks in a really good position for the future. And I think Sharks fans should be absolutely over the moon and ecstatic about this. So, guys, please let us know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this trade? Do you like the trade for both teams? Do you think Askarov is going to live up to his potential as a future number one starting goaltender and a franchise goalie? How do you think he's going to do in San Jose? And also, what are your thoughts on Nashville, and the acquisitions they got? Do you think they're going to use those assets now to make a bigger move? What are your thoughts on it? Please let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and, comment. And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of the day and stay tuned because we have more videos coming. Thank you.